Hi guys, a couple days ago I put up a VGC match showing this one team I was kind of tweaking with for the 2013 metagame. Um, I asked you guys if you wanted to see an RMT of it, and I was like, hey, let's RMT it, a few people want to see it, so, yeah, I guess that's that. Just a couple things before we get into this. Please remember that this is not the final version of this team, nor is this an actual serious team. I make a lot of teams in my spare time for VGC, just none of them are really, like, full thought out. Also, another thing, remember these teams that I make, they're based off of my play style. And in VGC, I tend to use weatherless, and, I just tend to keep track of all the threats that I've seen, because I've been in the VGC meta for almost 5 years now. God, that's way too long. But anyways, I hope you guys will enjoy. I've never done like a YouTube RMT, so some feedback on this would be cool. If you guys want to see like another RMT like this, maybe I'll do another one. Yeah, but feedback after this would be great. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the team here. Alright, so like I said before, this is not like an official team that I could be using, but we're just going to talk about it real quick. So first off, the team consists of Landorus-Therian form, Thundurus-Therian form, Chandelure, Jellicent, Amoonguss, and Scizor. Now, when I make my teams, again, like I said before, I like to use weatherless. That's primarily me. And not only that, but when you make a weatherless team, especially now with how the VGC meta got shooken up, with all the weather inducers now, such as Politoed and Ninetales being the two most significant, you kind of have to plan for those things, because unlike singles, VGC, Swift Swim is allowed, and so isn't Excadrill for that matter. So you kind of have to be ready for stuff like this. So when I make these teams, I try to keep those threats in mind primarily because those are the most overseen things. Rain is very, very dominant. It's very easy to run. It does not take much skill, to be totally honest. Sand takes a little more skill to run, but still, it's not that hard, especially if you have Excadrill, or Scoutland for that matter. Even Sandslash, I think, would be kind of a viable option. But without further ado, let's just jump right into each poke, and let's talk about what each one does, and we'll go from there. So first on the team, we have Landorus-Therian form. Very simple spread. It is Jolly with max HP, max attack and max speed, and it's holding a focus sash. Now, the reason I prefer a focus sash to a Yachi Berry, which many people run on a Landorus or something with quad weak to ice. You also see it common in Garchomp, Landorus Eyes. I don't see many Gliscors, but the few I've seen, some of them do run Yachi, but now because of Poison Heal or Toxic Heal, whatever it's called, Poison Orb is better to run, but the reason I like a Sash is because it's not just weak to ice, there's also water moves out there as well. When you lead against, let's say, Kingdra and Politoed, what are you going to do? You have the Yachi Berry, great, but you're still going to get knocked out by a rain-boosted Hydro Pump or a Surf, whatever Kingdra's going to throw in your face. So a Sash is just kind of there to guarantee that you will live one hit like that. So that is why I prefer Sash. Jolly, just because there are some common base 90 speed pokes in the VGC tier, not a whole lot, because a lot of the things you will be facing are going to be around base 100 speed. Zapdos, Terrakion, Latios, Garchomp, if I haven't already mentioned it. Just some big threats predominantly out there. But Jolly's always good, and not only that, but when you run Adamant, I guess you could run Adamant if you really wanted to, but with the amount of Intimidate users out there, you're more than likely going to be switching this thing around, or you're going to want to try avoiding them altogether. But anyways, let's get into the moveset. Very simple, very straightforward. It's Protect, Rock Slide, Earthquake, and Smackdown. Now, Rock Slide and Smackdown might seem a little redundant, but when you think about Landorus-T's move pool in general, especially for VGC, there's not a whole lot of other options out there. I mean, you've got stuff like Brick Break, and like Superpower is an idea, but in VGC you generally do not want to like stat downing moves. So I figured this would just be the best option overall. Rock Slide is there for things that levitate, but that's also why I have Smackdown too. And not only that, but the benefit of Smackdown comes in handy a few times. I've had a few matches where I do go for Smackdown, the other guy goes for Earthquake, therefore he will hit his own partner as well, the Levitator. It's especially good against Cress, just because Cress is oftentimes paired with pokes that use Earthquake or some kind of double hitting move. Again, most notably Earthquake. So that's why Smackdown. And not only that, but just in general, just having like pseudo Edgequake coverage with this thing is always a good thing as well. So that's Landorus-T. So let's move on to Landorus-T's quote-unquote partner, my second lead option, I guess you could say, co-lead, whatever it's going to be called, and that would be Thundurus-T. And again, very simple spread. It's just timid with max speed, max special attack, and it's holding a Yachi Berry. And the reason I gave it a Yachi Berry is because Ludicolo, a +1 Ice Beam, or a Life Orb Ice Beam from a modest Ludicolo can't take it out with a Yachi Berry. It gets very close, but it won't always kill. So, again, this thing does make for a good co-pairing lead with Landorus. Generally, any kind of combination like this. Another most infamous one is Zapchomp, which I used to run on my very, very old team. That's always great, but, yeah, so just getting into move spread real quick. I run Protect, Taunt, T-Bolt, and HP Flying. Now, yes, HP Flying is kind of situational. There are times when I wish I did have HP Ice, so I guess you could change it to HP Ice if you really wanted to. The reason I don't really need HP Ice is, excuse me, is because just most of the time the things that are weak to Ice, I just have Jellicent for. And we'll talk about Jellicent later, but anyways, Thundy-T, Protect for given reasons, Taunt because this team, if you bring the faster things such as Chandelure, Landorus, and Thundy, Trick Room will be an issue. So Taunt is there to prevent Trick Room users. Not only that, but Taunt really puts a hiccup in Trick Room. I used to run a Trick Room team for a very long time, back in 4th gen. I love that team, but anyways, T-Bolt for obvious stab, and HP Flying is good for dual stab, and not only that, but it really helps with Ludicolo. I mean, the problem is that Ludicolo, not a lot of teams really prepare for it, and it's got a unique typing with only 2 weaknesses that are not very common. But this team, I kind of try to make sure that I had a way to get around Ludicolo, because in the past I've always noticed my teams have a problem with it. So that's the deal with HP Flying there. That's why I have it. Again, you can run HP Ice if you want. And just quickly touching upon both Landorus and Thundurus and why I picked them. Landorus for Intimidate, it's one of the best abilities in VGC, and with Landorus's typing, it's an absolutely metagame shifting poke in VGC. It really is, in my opinion. And Thundurus, Volt Absorb, and you're flying electric, that's like phenomenal. This thing beats the Thundurus incarnate form one-on-one because it can't get T-waved. Taunt's pretty much useless, and for the most part, HP Ice, especially with the Yachi Berry, won't be doing anything. If I remember correctly, I think it's like a 3-hit KO, 2 or 3-hit KO. I'll put a damage calc somewhere on your screen. And then the two of them just work so perfectly together. And not only that, but the fact that they're both coming off of a base 145 stat, that's incredible. You're talking about 2 extremely heavy-hitting powerhouses back-to-back front lineup with perfect coverage for one another. So, generally these two do make for my lead, but again, when I build my teams, I always try to make sure I don't have a lead, because in VGC, you should be able to switch up whatever you want for your leads. So, I guess this is kind of like my lead, but not really, if you know what I'm trying to say here. But anyways, let's move on to the next member, and that will be Chandelure. Chandelure. Okay, I'm done. Anyways, Chandelure, again, just a very straightforward, simple EV spread. Timid with max speed and max special attack with a ghost gem. Now, the reason is that many of you have probably figured out by now, maybe from watching my videos, or maybe some of you have dived into the tier or played the tier for a while. Crest is a problem. Flat out, it is a huge problem. It is almost impossible to take down. So the reason I have a ghost gem is to power up Chandelure's Shadow Ball, which, speaking of Shadow Ball, I should probably tell you the moves real quick. I run Protect, Energy Ball, Shadow Ball, and Heat Wave. You can opt to put Flamethrower or Fire Blast over Heat Wave. I just like Heat Wave more because it's double hitting. I'm a big fan of double hitting moves, but anyways, Ghost Gem, Shadow Ball, I believe guarantees a 2-hit KO on all spreads of Crest. Maybe not like max HP, max special defense. That might live if it's carrying leftovers, or maybe even a citrus berry. I don't know damage calcs for those kinds of spreads of Crest off the top of my head, because I don't really see stuff like that. That's another thing. Most walls in VGC are kind of mixed, so I'm assuming as long as it's not like super duper especially defensive, it should be able to 2-hit KO Crest with the Ghost Gem, Shadow Ball, and then a regular Shadow Ball followed up. But why Chandelure? Chandelure, very good typing for one. It was unique typing when it came out in 2011, and in VGC it definitely shines. Not only that, but again, the base 145 special attack. You got 3 pokes on this team coming off a base 145. You're gonna do some damage. And not only that, but the fact that it's a fire type. And the thing about VGC is that not a lot of people bring fire types, I've noticed. And it's definitely a type that should strongly be considered for any VGC team. You got some good stuff out there. You got like Heatran. Okay, maybe Heatran's not the best in a tier filled with Garchomp. But you got, you know, stuff like Chandelure, you've got Infernape, Speed Boost Blaziken. I mean, just stuff like that. Like, even Ninetales and his Scarf Typhlosion with Eruption. Stuff like that. Fire types should not be underestimated in the tier. They're definitely very powerful just because, unless, you know, your opponent's running Rain, generally people don't have a whole lot to handle fire types. Anyways, moving along here. Next we got Jellicent. And, yeah, this one's got a little funky spread. It's bold nature with 196 EVs in HP, 232 in defense, and 80 in SPDEF. Now you're probably thinking, why are you running a physically defensive Jellicent? Well, it's just that reason. In VGC, you generally want your walls to be kind of balanced, so to speak. You kind of want, you know, they're like more specially based in their defenses. You kind of want to compensate in their defenses. A good example of this is my Donphan. My Donphan I used long ago, it's a specially defensive Donphan because, you know, its physical side was fine, but the special side was not, so you try to compensate for that, which is what I did here. And the moveset you will be running is Protect, Icy Wind, Shadow Ball, and Scald. Icy Wind is just a fantastic move in VGC. The fact that you're hitting both your opponents and lowering their speed by 1, that's not too bad, especially with stuff that, like, is immune to T-Waves, such as Garchomp, Thundy-T, and anything else that cannot get T-Wave for the most part. And not only that, but Jellicent is good for countering Rain teams for the most part. I mean, for granted, yes, you still have to worry about Kingdra, and if it is carrying Draco Meteor, which few do tend to carry. Outside of that, it generally makes for a pretty good counter to Rain. And paired up with Amoonguss, who we will talk about next, you just got a fantastic Rain countering pair for weatherless, in my opinion. Definitely very good. And not only that, but, you know, again, Icy Wind, lowering speed is gonna make Jellicent and Amoonguss faster. And even Scald, with the 30% chance to burn, that should not be overlooked in VGC. Very few people, like, prepare for status conditions. I mean, they normally have that one poke that runs the Lumberry, but still, if you can get a burn on something, even in general, just the withering down of HP, it's gonna be super annoying. So, that's that. And not only that, but Shadow Ball again for Crest. And, you know, another form of stab is always a great thing. And especially Latios. This thing does pretty well against Latios as well. But moving on. Speaking of its partner, Amoonguss, that's what we have here. And Amoonguss is going to be bold nature with 168 in HP, 88 in defense, and 252 in special defense. Now, this Amoonguss is designed more to take on Rain because Rain is such a huge thing in the metagame. Everyone and their mother can make a Rain team. I mean, just slap a Politoed, a Ludicolo, a Kingdra, and a Toxicroak, and you're good to go. But Amoonguss actually stops almost all of those. No, yeah, it does stop all of those pokes, like dead in its tracks. Barring Sublum Kingdra or Sublum Toxicroak, which I've, like, never seen ever. But, anyways, for moves, you're going to want Spore, Giga Drain, Stun Spore, and Sludge Bomb. I mean, you can opt out Stun Spore for Protect if you really wanted to. Because there is no sleep cause in VGC, you can put everything to sleep if you really felt like it. Which is what I actually tend to do. But, Sludge Bomb primarily there for Ludicolo. Again, Ludicolo is just such a problem, especially Swift Swim. Ludicolo with Absorb Bulb or a Life Orb, I should say. Definitely very, very powerful poke. Not only that, but even the defensive sets with the Rain Dish and the Leech Seed and the obnoxiousness, and it's just Ludicolo can be such a pain. It really can, but it cannot touch Amoonguss for the most part. Ice Beam, I believe, is a 2-hit KO. And if you can get a Spore off of that, or even a Stun Spore if you do opt to carry it, Ludicolo is pretty much nullified, and then you can just slap it with a bunch of sludge bombs, and that'll be that. Not only that, but Amoonguss and Jellicent, they're also very good for Trick Room users, since I believe, unless it's changed, one of the best Trick Room users, and also one of the best in my opinion, is Jellicent, just because Jellicent can deal with rain. If you give it a mental herb, it can't be taunted, it can't be faked out. Jellicent has very good typing for a Trick Room inducer. And Amoonguss can easily stop it by going for Spore. It can threaten it with Giga Drains. Other Trick Room users tend to be P2. You see the Dusknoir or Dusclops. Well, more Dusclops now because of Eviolite. What else is there? I think you could see like Slowbro or Slowking. I know I used to use a Slowking in 4th gen. So either way, Amoonguss fares up against a fair amount of Trick Room inducers, whether it's being able to put them to sleep, or, you know, Giga Drain or Sludge Bomb them appropriately. And last but not least, we have Scizor, and this is an Adamant Scizor with 244 HP, 252 in attack, and 12 in speed. Now, before anyone asks the 12 in speed, it's because according to Smogon standard sets, you're only supposed to run 4 in speed, and then there's probably that speed creeper who runs 8, so I speed creep, so I run 12, and that is why I have the 12 in speed. I do run an Occaberry on this thing. I guess you can opt for Life Orb if you really wanted to. I like Occaberry a little bit more because it does guarantee you're gonna live some fire-type attacks. Not all, like, for example, Typhlosion, Scarf, Max HP, Eruption in the Sun. Yeah, good luck taking that. But obviously you want Technician as your ability, and it's just going to be Protect, Bug Bite, Bullet Punch, and Brick Break. Kind of standard. I mean, it kind of functions the same as it does in singles. You just smack things really hard with Technician boosted moves. The reason I run Brick Break over Superpower, for that one guy who's going to ask why, is because, again, you don't want stat downing moves for the most part in VGC, since you generally will not be switching too much. Yeah, that's pretty much Scizor. Scizor's just kind of here for Hail teams, because Hail's always annoying, especially for weatherless teams. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I've got 3 things on my team weak to ice, and with Scarf Abomasnows and Scarf Rotom Frost just being everywhere, it's actually kind of hard for weatherless to counter Hail for the most part. I've always noticed that with my weatherless teams. Hail's always a problem, and then Trick Room with Hail is a nightmare. But Scizor kind of takes care of that, bullet punching and bug biting and brick breaking things appropriately. Bullet punch and brick break being the most notable, being both super effective to ice types. And I mean, occasionally I guess you do see the Scarf Glaceon, which is a nice thing for bullet punch, but I don't know why it would lock itself into Blizzard. I'm rambling, okay, I'm done. But that's basically Scizor. Scizor's just kind of here to play cleanup and just kind of hit the ice types that can cause his team a problem. And so yeah, that is the actual team itself. I guess we can just kind of go into like some notes about the team that I've kind of noticed. I've only used it a few times, so yeah. Alright, just a couple quick things about this team real fast. Even though I do have answers to rain, rain is still a big problem, just because rain for any team is generally a big problem. Although Jellicent and Amoonguss do work well together. Kingdra can definitely be obnoxious just because of Dragon Pulses and whatnot, especially Sublime Kingdra. That is a huge problem to this team, since it becomes a lot harder to deal with due to the fact that if I do Spore after breaking its sub, it can just get another sub up, and I gotta do it again, and Politoed can get it an extra hit if Politoed is out on the field, assuming. Not only that, but Latios is another big problem to this team. Latios is just a monster in general and should not be taken lightly. Another problem with this team, I guess Trick Room could be a problem, barring, you know, being taunted and me just not bringing the appropriate things. That can be a problem as well. Hail's kind of dealt with. Sun should not be too big of a problem due to Chandelure, just because the few Sun teams there are out there. Primarily they have Ninetales, Typhlosion, or sometimes Heatran even. And Venusaur. And maybe another Chlorophyll user like Victory Bell or Shiftry. Shiftry is a pretty common one. But those can kind of be easily dealt with Landorus, Chandelure, and Scizor appropriately. Probably could bring Thundurus for backup, I would assume. But that's just me. But for the most part, I think I have most of the kinks in this team kind of worked out. Again, this team is tailored to my play style. If you want to change things on this team, like EV spreads, moves, items, you know, you're more than welcome to. Like I said, you know, many times, this is my play style. This is what I prefer the team to be like. But I think that's it. I think that's all I really have to say about this team. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this RMT thing. Again, this was kind of like a first for me. I hope I did well at explaining my thought process in the team and just kind of how the team works. Feedback would be great because it would kind of help me figure out, you know, what I could do better if I do more of these. And yeah, that would ultimately just be the best thing. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll leave an export of the team in the description so you guys can just go copy paste that showdown and PO, whatever you choose to use as your Pokemon server. You guys can take it there. If you guys want to save it and use it on Wi-Fi, you guys can do that too. Point is that there'll be an export in the description. And I believe that will be all. So thank you guys for watching my RMT. That sounds so weird in my head, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys around. So until then, guys, later.